Hey folks, we're getting ready here, and please welcome to the stage Jean-Gaël Collomb, Executive Director of the Wildlife Conservation Network.
Good morning. Welcome everybody here. Before we go on this journey today, I want everybody to kind of take a moment and get grounded in today and in this experience. So it's Saturday morning, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, maybe many of you have had hectic weeks, hectic mornings, maybe you had trouble getting out of bed, or you had traffic on your way over, or you had trouble getting the kids to get dressed, whatever it is. Just put all that aside and just be here with me. Just let's all try to be here together and try to maybe think of your favorite animals, one of your favorite animals, and you can close your eyes, keep your eyes open, but try to visualize one of those animals. Try to think about it in its environment. Try to imagine the air that you feel. Take deep breaths. Try to be here. Visualize this animal. It's looking at you. Feel the wind, the sounds, the smells of it. And try to hang with that thought for a moment. Try to imagine how you feel and be here so that today we can all engage together. Let's forget everything else and let's be here together. Because that's what today is about. Today is about engaging. It's about being present. Today is about being inspired. It's about connecting with one another. And it's going to be a fantastic journey. And so it's really important to find the time to engage in the things that we love and to intentionally make that time so that we can be present. I could tell you all about the number of animals, of the number of species that are disappearing or the threats that they're facing. But I think you already know this, and we don't need to be hearing about more doom and gloom. We need to be focused on hope. And what gives me hope is seeing this auditorium nearly packed. What gives me hope is that you're all here because you care. You're all here because you have this passion for wildlife. What gives me hope are all the conservationists that we're going to hear today, who are going to share their stories, their inspiring stories about overcoming the challenges that they face in the field, about finding creative solutions for people and wildlife to coexist and thrive. We all have something in common. We're all united by this passion for wildlife. And we all have something to contribute. And so I invite you to engage with one another, to meet your neighbors, to go and meet all the people here, because when we work together, we can really make a big difference for wildlife and for the communities that share their environment. You all have something to contribute. You may not know what it is yet, or you may already do know what it is. Maybe some of you will become wildlife conservationists. Maybe some of you will volunteer for an organization. Maybe some of you will be writing checks. Maybe some of you already are doing all those things, and that's great. But today is a great opportunity to find out what it is that you want to do to engage and join our movement to protect wildlife. And so I thank you for all the things you've already done, and I thank you for all the things that you'll do in the future. I want to take a few minutes just to tell you a little bit about the Wildlife Conservation Network. We exist to save wildlife. We believe that conservation entrepreneurs who are based in the field are uniquely placed to do this because they live and breathe the realities of finding collaborative solutions with communities that share the environment with these beautiful animals. We were created in 2002 as an efficient and effective organization to try to bridge these passionate conservationists with equally passionate people like yourselves. Because when we create these bonds, we're able to help these conservationists achieve their missions better and faster. And that's what it's all about. We've been able to do this really well, thanks to your generosity. Since its inception in 2002, you all have contributed $120 million for WCN to support efforts in the field. So I want to thank you for this incredible generosity. And at WCN, we really believe in transparency. So if you designate your contribution for a particular species, we'll guarantee that 100% of that contribution goes to a project in the field for that species. We also believe in efficiency, so 90% of our expenses go towards our programmatic expense. Charity Navigator, which ranks over 8,000 different charities, gave WCN its first perfect score and has it currently ranked as its #1 wildlife conservation organization. We've had a really exciting year at WCN. It's been a really busy year. And as I said, we exist to save wildlife, and so we do so in a number of different ways. We invest in conservation entrepreneurs. We have a core network of 17 long-term partners, and we invest in their organization for the long term. And they're really the heart of WCN, and they're all here today. They'll all be on the stage. I invite you to go and meet them. They all do extraordinary work. And sometimes there are conservation challenges that really require more than a single organization, that require all of us to pull together so that we can have an impact and make a difference across the entire range of a species, across all those threats. And that's what's inspired WCN to create wildlife crisis and recovery funds. And we've had tremendous success and progress with numerous projects within the Elephant Crisis Fund, the Lion Recovery Fund, and we're really, really delighted to be able to launch a Pangolin Crisis Fund in May of this year. We also like to have a pretty big tent, and there are many more organizations that we would like to support that we can't support, and this is why every year we invite some guest speakers so that they can share their work with all of you. And so this year, we're really pleased to have the opportunity to introduce you to a number of those guest speakers. We'll have Hutan, who works with orangutans. We'll have Mariset, who works with dugongs and dolphins in Malaysia. The Macaw Recovery Network, working with macaws in Costa Rica. And we'll have a Tiki Highwood Foundation, who is one of the first grantees of the Pangolin Crisis Fund. Their presentation is actually happening upstairs, but I think you all chose the right session to be into here. I'll say this a bit later, but maybe I'll just get it over with now. Actually, if people want to always wonder what kind of presentation they want to attend, all these presentations are currently live streamed on Facebook and YouTube, and you can watch them later. So you can catch up with all those different organizations. We also have opportunities to display what happens when you invest in the future of conservation. And let's face it, this is something that we're in for the long haul. So it's really important to invest in the next generation. WCN is proud to have a scholarship program. We've supported over 110 different scholars from numerous countries to pursue a degree in conservation biology or something related to conservation. And a couple of them will be up on stage or at some of the conservationist table, and I invite you to go and meet them. And then we're really proud to have been growing our community of supporters. It's quite extraordinary to see all of you here. It was extraordinary yesterday to see 2,400 people at the Masonic Theater to listen to Jane Goodall and then be introduced to all the conservationists. We've had more and more people wanting to join this effort, not just here in the Bay Area. People have flown in from all parts of the country to be here. I see people in the room actually who have flown in from Europe and other places just to attend the Expo. That's the kind of reach, that's the kind of interest that really gives me hope. WCN is present on all the different social media channels, so you can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, and as I said, all of these talks are being live streamed there. So I want to take a few minutes to talk about today and how to make the most of today. Today's a really special day. It is a journey. You're going to travel. You're going to meet conservationists from all over the world. You're going to meet fellow supporters from all over the world as well. And so I invite you to connect with all those people. I want to see, and I do this every year, but I think there's value in repeating it. I want to see how many of you are attending your first Expo. Please raise your hand for... Wow, so I want to give you a big, big round of applause. Thank you for joining us. And I want to show you just what kind of community you've joined. So can you raise your hand if you've attended 2 Expos or more? Okay, now keep your hand up if you've attended 5 Expos or more. And keep your hand up if you've attended 10 Expos or more. Fantastic, more or less, okay. So we've had people who've attended, I think, all 18 expos. I mean, this is a community that is deeply committed. And so I want you to go and meet all these people. You're not alone. I think when you go to a party, maybe you're kind of one of a few people who really cares about wildlife, but these are your people. This is where it all happens. I want to know also how many people are here because a friend invited you to come today. Okay, that's really, really great. So a huge thank you for coming and a huge thank you to your friends who invited you. And now, that's the job that you all have for next year. Okay, everybody has to bring a friend. We've got to grow this community, and ideally we'll also be able to grow it in other parts of the country. There are 1,200 people here today. There are a number of conservation organizations that are not going to be on stage that are exhibiting. There are about 60 groups outside. I invite you to go and meet all of them. They all do extraordinary work. We do like to have a really big tent at WCN. And so go out and take advantage of this, network. Maybe you want to work locally. Maybe you want to work internationally. Maybe you want to support local efforts versus international efforts. This is your palette to choose from. So go and meet all those organizations. They all do really, really fantastic work. I think I'm getting to a point in my presentation where I have to run through a couple of housekeeping items, so hopefully I'm not going to forget any. That's why I have my little notes here. I think everybody can find the bathrooms. There are bathrooms in the building, so you know that. We're going to have lunch, all the lunches. You need a lunch ticket in order to get lunch. The lunches, I've been told, are supposed to be plastic-free, so let's hope that's true. At least they should be compostable. If you can't get one of our lunches, there are a couple of opportunities nearby. You can ask one of us to direct you, but you could go and get some food. We want to make sure that people stay through the whole day. We've got some fantastic talks scheduled all the way through the end of the day, so stay hydrated, stay well fed, and then to entice you to stay longer, if you leave between, I think, 4:30 and 6:45, parking will actually be free. We'll open up the gates. You can exit the parking lot pretty easily. Several years ago, we had a bit of an issue with a huge parking traffic jam, so we're going to avoid that. But please do stay throughout the whole day. And I know I'm going to forget some of my housekeeping items. Some of the obvious: turn off your cell phones. I asked one of my colleagues to bring a cowbell. I don't know if Kylie. So, can you ring the cowbell? So when you hear the cowbell somewhere in the main hall, that means that you should wrap up whatever discussion you're having, transactions you're making, buying things. It's going to be time to restart one of the talks. So when you hear the cowbell, come back in. I believe I've covered all those points. Yes. So finally, I want to thank a number of people. I want to thank all of our sponsors. The Sacramento Zoo, the Houston Zoo, San Diego Zoo, Safari West. I want to thank the Gordon Betty Moore Foundation, Disney Conservation Fund, the Tom Leyden Conservation Fund, and the International Crane Foundation. I want to thank them for their support that makes this event possible. So big round of applause to all of our sponsors. I also want to thank all of the WCN staff that's been doing an extraordinary work preparing for this event and for a number of events and who engage with you throughout the whole year. They absolutely love being able to connect you with your conservation interests, with your passion. So reach out to one of us. We have a plastic name tag, or we look a little tired and haggard. That's WCN conservation staff. So go and find them, ask them questions, and try to find a way to get engaged. I also want to thank all our volunteers. We've got over 100 volunteers who make these events possible. Without them, we wouldn't be able to put on these events, and we certainly wouldn't be able to put them on as efficiently and ensure that as much money goes out into the field. So a huge thank you to all our volunteers. And finally, I again want to thank all of you. Without you, we can't do any of this. And it's not just your contributions, it's not just your volunteering, it's not just your engagement. The simple fact that you care, the simple fact that you came here, that you are engaging with people, it inspires us, and more importantly, it inspires not just the conservationists who are going to be on stage, but they can take that back home and they can share it with their team, they can share it with their community members, people who have no idea that there are 2,000 people, 3,000 people or more who are really interested in what they do, who are really interested and who really care about the hard choices that those people make to live in harmony with wildlife. So thank you for inspiring us and inspiring them and coming here today. So next I want to introduce our first speaker, though she barely needs any introduction. She had a first career as a winemaker and a goat farmer. Eventually, she found her way into working with cheetahs here in the United States and developed one of the most successful captive breeding programs for cheetahs in the US in the 70s. And she found her way to Namibia. And in 1990, she found the Cheetah Conservation Fund. And that's been their base ever since then, from which they've launched numerous programs affecting and protecting cheetahs, not just in Namibia, but all over. She's a real trailblazer and a real pioneer. She's inspired many, many, many people, from local farmers to policymakers to people like yourselves. And one of those people was Charlie Knowles, many, many years ago, before WCN existed, and eventually inspired him to start the Wildlife Conservation Network. So I want to welcome to the stage somebody whose influence on cheetah and on conservation has been immense, broad, and very deep. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Laurie Marker.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thank you very much. And here we go for the start of a wonderful expo. So I'm going to talk to you about cheetahs and what we're doing to try to help them. And our motto is, saving cheetahs means changing the world. And that's what we're all doing here today, and I know that you'll enjoy meeting everybody. Cheetahs are the most amazing animal on the face of the earth. And then there's the rest of the earth and the rest of the animals. But just look at them. They're the fastest land animal. They're built not only for speed, but for doing a very important job, which is maintaining the health of an ecosystem. They keep all of our grasslands healthy because they help keep all the wildlife healthy. So they weed out the sick and the old and the young and the slow and the dumb. And with that, we have healthier ecosystems. When you have top predators like the cheetah, you not only have this healthy ecosystem, you have much more biodiversity within it. But cheetahs today are actually losing their race in many respects. We are in our 6th global extinction, and not to bring gloom and doom, but this is a reality. And if we don't face the reality, then we're not going to actually be able to change the reality. And I want you to know, and today, with all the people here and all of my colleagues working around the world, we can make a difference. We can make this change. Just to think that we might lose 40% of our land mammals by 2050 is not right. And it's not right to our young children. It's not right for us as older people to do this. But unfortunately, our large carnivore populations are declining, and cheetahs' problems are here. You've heard me talk about this before. Habitat loss, overgrowth of human populations, human-wildlife conflict, because in Africa, everybody has their livestock. And when there's so many more people, you've got that many more livestock, and then you've got conflict, and then people are poor, very, 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 very poor. And with that, we have to change that. Another issue we're facing today, which is very critical, and that is our illegal wildlife trade. And I'm going to talk with you more about that more today. But the cheetah is an animal that lacks genetic diversity. It actually went through a population bottleneck about 10 to 12,000 years ago, leaving it very genetically similar. We've got abnormalities with their reproduction, over 80% abnormal sperm, and all of this is really causing a reduced population. With that, the way to save them is to try to stop the loss of any individual cheetah anywhere. I did grow up loving animals on the back of a horse. I love dogs, I love goats. I was a goat judge, any of you? And in the early 1970s, I went to Oregon to have a winery and my dairy goats there. And with that, I got a job at the Wildlife Safari, and that changed my life. Growing up, I spent most of my time following behind my favorite veterinarians, and still ride every single day that I can when I'm at home. Thank you, Anne, for your saddle. In 1977, I went to Namibia with this cheetah named Kayam, and she changed the face of cheetahs for the rest of the world. My job was to find out if she could learn how to hunt out in the wild. What I found is that farmers were killing cheetahs like flies, 800 to 900 a year. And I thought somebody should do something. There's got to be somebody who will, if I tell enough people that people are killing cheetahs, somebody will do something. And over the time, it came back to me. Nobody did anything, so I set up a foundation. And in 1990, moved from America to Namibia. And today we are the largest cheetah conservation organization. We are only a handful of cheetah people. You'll hear Rebecca later on today. We are a very small group of cheetah people working very hard. But we actually set up a whole reserve. We've got about 140,000 acres. We're a model farm. We're open to the public, so we welcome people to come and learn. We're a training center. We do have a lot of orphan cheetahs. These are cubs that have been, mothers have been killed, pet trade happening. These are all at our center in Namibia, where we've got a genetics lab and a veterinary clinic. We do livestock guarding dogs, which are helping save cheetahs, and we have a habitat restoration project. But just again to let you know where cheetahs are, and it's very, very important. In the last 100 years, we've lost over 75% of the range and the numbers of cheetahs throughout. Today, there's less than 7,500 cheetahs throughout their range, and those are in the dark orange parts of the map. The light orange is where they were previously. I'm based down here in Namibia. Namibia is about 2.5 times the size of California. Between Namibia and Botswana, we have about 50% of the population. And with that, most of the animals are found outside of protected areas. With only 23 countries where there are cheetahs and 31 populations, with 20 of those populations under 100 individuals and understanding their genetic makeup, you can see that this can be a very critical problem. I'm also based up here now in Somaliland, where we've just now, a few weeks ago, set up our nonprofit status there. The reason being is that there's illegal wildlife trade, and these cubs are being caught from the Gulf of Africa, and the Horn of Africa going into the Gulf, and from that, they are going into the illegal pet trade, where the people up in the Middle East have them as a status symbol. And this is really what we're looking at. Again, I'm based now up in Somaliland, where there's about 300 within the Horn of Africa. We've got multi-markets down here where they're selling bones, and there's a lot of trade there in hides. So these are the issues that we are dealing with. We've had, this is the numbers of confiscations, and just in the last, since 2011, we've had almost 100 cats that have come unto us. A week ago, as I'm here in the United States, we got a call, we got confiscated another 12 cheetahs. In a matter of 2 days, when they got to our sanctuary, we have 3 of those cubs alive right now. And I've got one of these fancy watches that go along with stuff, and so I'm on like 24 hours a day figuring out what's going on. One of the cubs right now is not doing all that well. But that just gives you an idea of the kind of tragedy that we're faced with. The green areas are where we know there are cheetahs up there. It's very dangerous. You can't really go out and find them out in those areas, but are now starting to train students up in these areas from Somaliland. And the red is where we're doing the confiscations. We've had to expand and build facilities. Those of you who've been to Namibia, these facilities look nothing like what we have there, but this is immediate. We've had to build these in the matter of just a few months. We are doing a lot of training, and we're trying to get people on the ground in Somaliland as well as throughout the Horn of Africa to take on this cause. This is a few minutes, and I'd like you to watch this.
Barely a couple of weeks old, Gaulis is clearly in desperate need of his mother. But this orphan cheetah is one of the lucky ones, rescued from the illegal wildlife trade. Across the Horn of Africa, if the mothers aren't killed, the cubs are snatched from them, smuggled in cramped crates and cardboard boxes. By the time they get to this shelter, they're barely alive. According to the Cheetah Conservation Fund, some 300 cubs are smuggled out of this region every year. And for every one that makes it into captivity, another 3 die on the way. That valley down there is becoming known as the Cheetah Supermarket. That's because many of the trafficked cheetahs are being smuggled across this porous border with Ethiopia into Somaliland. This breakaway state from Somalia is the main transit route for the trafficked cats out of the Horn of Africa. smuggled across the Gulf of Aden to the Arabian Peninsula. The survivors of the rough journey become an exotic accessory, like designer bling, as rich Gulf Arabs compete for social media clicks. At least 1,000 cheetahs are estimated to be in private hands in Gulf states. According to experts, most die within a year or two in captivity. Although private ownership and trading of wildlife is banned in most Gulf states, enforcement is lax. Illegal online sales are starting to be policed, but if you really want a cheetah, they're not hard to find. This is an online Saudi marketplace, and when we searched for cheetahs, several listings came up, some advertising 2 to 3 year old cheetahs, others selling young cubs. This man in Saudi Arabia is eager to sell.
طلب اللي تبغين ذكر تبغين انثى ما تفرق يعني من افريقيا نورد احنا عن طريق موقع مع واحد من الشباب وعندنا واحد ساكن هناك برضو انا اخذت من عندهم فوق ال 80 حبه.
$6,600 seems to be the starting online price in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi government did not respond to CNN's repeated requests for comment. There are only 7,500 cheetahs left worldwide, half the number from just a decade ago.
People who have a cheetah as a pet are causing the species to go extinct. It's leading the way towards extinction. Mr. Bottle is one of the favorite toys that we've found.
American biologist Laurie and her Cheetah Conservation Fund are racing to save the species from extinction.
This is not how a baby cheetah should be living. They need to be living out in the wild.
They've set up this safe house in Somaliland for the rescues. It's bursting at the seams.
Seeing them in here, it breaks my heart.
You can see why people call them cats that cry.
It's our responsibility to give them the very best care that they can have and to try to save every single one of them.
10-month-old Kitty is in intensive care, the last survivor of 3 sisters.
She is not one of our healthiest cats, and it probably does have a lot to do with where she started in life.
Despite the team's efforts, Kitty didn't make it.
These animals are a smaller population, a very rare population, and from that, each one of them do carry a different genetic code. This one is a male.
Every cub gets microchipped. Their DNA is recorded. Without a mother, they have to be taught how to hunt and survive in the wild.
It takes sometimes months to try to get one cheetah to get on its feet.
Neju Jimmy, a soon-to-be vet, is their main caregiver.
I love them so much, so I don't even see my mom once a week. She lives over there.
According to Marker, there are only about 300 adults in unprotected areas in the Horn of Africa.
If you do your math, the math kind of shows that it's only going to be a matter of a couple years that we're not going to have any cheetahs in this region left.
Many have already been lost to conflict with humans. Somaliland wildlife authorities are busting traffickers. It's illegal here, along with private ownership. But in the capital, Hargeisa, a popular restaurant advertises burgers and captive lions, pacing in the background for selfies. For 3 years, this cheetah on a short rope has been the star attraction for paying clients to pet, poke, and pose with. The owner insists it's legal.
We have a license to keep these animals. And plus, this guy, there's only one cheetah here, and he has a lot of space to run around.
Why it was tolerated in plain sight went unanswered by the authorities. More are hidden behind walls. Even as we're leaving Somaliland, 2 more cheetahs have been confiscated from a house here in Hargeisa. 3 more were seized just a few days later. As long as there's a demand by the rich, creating a lucrative trade for the poor, the cheetah's future hangs in the balance. Time is not on their side.
Well, that's our life these days. And I'm going back to Somaliland in a few days. I just have come from there. This is the new facility that we're building. All these young cubs now are growing. We've got more coming in. Seems like our government in Somaliland is now doing more confiscations. We've got some teeth behind it, but there's still a lot of problems. I've just come back from CITES, which is the Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species. CITES, the Middle Eastern countries, said there is no illegal wildlife trade. The Horn of Africa countries know there is, and right now we're trying hard to get this going forward to try to get the stopping of this trade in some way. So we're dealing with a lot of governments and politics and policies around this. On a happy note, I'm going to try to quickly share with you what's going on in Namibia. Namibia is doing well. We're working very hard. In the last few months, we've just increased our farmland by 2 very important pieces of land. This is now a whole reserve based next to the Greater Waterberg, the Waterberg National Park and the Greater Waterberg Landscape. This is our 25th year of our livestock guarding dog program, if you can believe that, 25 years of WCN as well. And over the years, we have bred almost 700 puppies. We've put them out throughout not only Namibia, but many other areas in Africa. And we've got about 200 dogs working regularly on farms. And our farmers and our staff are working hard. We see between 70 to 100% reduction in livestock loss by having the dogs. And we've just got, soon, we've gotten 1 new puppy in, but we've got 2 more new breeding dogs coming in this year as well. We also use dogs to find scat, and our scat dog program continues to grow. Not only are we working throughout the farms in Namibia, we're also working up in Angola to find scat on the carnivore projects there. And much of this we're also publishing and trying to contribute to the science of using scat dogs. Once you find the scat, we call it black gold, it's poop. It comes into our genetics lab, and there we can identify species, individuals, look at populations, look at the diet, diseases, hormone. So our team is very, very, very busy. This year, we will be putting 2 master's programs, finishing, both Brian and Hafeni, who are working on looking at the population of the Masai Mara cheetahs. So if many of you have been out there, we'll have a whole population pedigree and know who's related to who, and it's quite exciting about that. And our community program also works. We've got, this past year, covered a huge area, about 7,000 square kilometers, and within this, we were able to put out camera traps everywhere, and this is a very important area that we're working within. We're finding the predators, the prey, but there's not a lot of prey, a lot of livestock, and some predators, and they're killing a lot of the African wild dogs. So we do a lot of training. We work with future farmers of Africa. This year alone, we've worked with about 140 farmers and over 15,000 head of livestock. And we also do a lot of training with youth and school groups. We get university groups in. We're working with the University of Langston University, which is in Oklahoma, which has the best goat university in the world, based in Oklahoma. And yet they're also based throughout Africa. And so they're working with us in Namibia, and some of our staff is coming over here. So it's quite exciting. And then school children. Already this year, we've worked with about 16,000 school children going into schools and having kids come to us. And with this, we've got internships as well. And a lot of the kids come internationally, but also locally. And this year, we've already had about 35 interns. And over the last nearly 30 years, we've had over 600 interns, and some of those people are actually out here. And many of them are, some of them are working for WCN. We've also started a rabies clinic, and our veterinarian's been out working on vaccinating of dogs. We've this year vaccinated about 1,000 dogs and cats already, and we're then working this next year to try to develop a spay and neuter campaign that'll help, because in these areas, rabies is a problem, and we really are highlighting the fact that most of the people, their livestock, their dogs and cats are not vaccinated, and it is something that can be deadly to humans as well. We've rehabilitated 7 cheetahs this year, as well as putting 6 of our painted dogs out for rewilding. We've got another 9 that are going to go out soon, and we're quite excited about that. And this is our facilities in Namibia. It looks a little bit different than Somaliland. We are off the grid. We do have solar everywhere. Our solar panels were actually donated to us by Tika, which is a Turkish aid organization. Because we raise livestock guarding dogs, they support us because they like the fact that we're working with farmers. This is our battery pack, so we are all off the grid, and we work hard to keep ourselves clean and green, along with our habitat restoration program. Many of you have heard about this because of the overgrazing. We get thickened thorn bushes that grow really high. We harvest them selectively. We're Forest Stewardship Council certified. And from that, we make a fuel log. And just this year, we will be starting to make biomass electricity. And we just got our gasifiers from a guy over in Berkeley that are going to start, and we're going to now be actually linking it up with our solar and having biomass electricity. We welcome interns and volunteers, all of ages. Many of the people here in the room I know have been volunteers with us, and we thank you. And if you don't want to volunteer anymore, you can also come and stay at our little lodge and learn more about what we're doing. We've got a staff of about 130 people. This is some of them from last year's Christmas, and we welcome you to come and visit, and we thank you for being a part of the work that we do. You are the Cheetah's future, and you've been a very, very dear friends and family to what we are doing in Namibia. Thank you.
We know it's going to be a long day, but we want to make sure that we get a couple of questions. But I also want to remind everybody that Laurie and all the conservationists are going to be at their table throughout the day. You can come and ask them questions then, but we'll take 2 questions from the audience now.
What kind of volunteer opportunities? We take people who come and volunteer. They can work with us with all of the different programs in Namibia. So taking care of our dogs, helping us. We have 40 cheetahs at our center as well. So, I mean, right now, worldwide, we're dealing with about 70 cheetahs in captivity.
So we have another question. We've got a mic running out there. Or if you want to shout out your question, Laurie's been great about repeating it. Go ahead, sir.
Sure. Climate change is a problem throughout the arid areas in the world, and where the cheetahs are found in those 31 populations in 23 countries are some of the driest and most arid areas in the world. We are on our worst drought in 120 years in Namibia. We haven't seen rain for a very long time. With that, without having the rain, you end up not having the grasses. Our drought has affected the agriculture, the wildlife, the economies of the people, and so we keep trying to look at alternatives. Basically, reduce livestock, have some healthy, have wildlife, and Namibia is trying to be a wildlife economy where we've got tourism that also plays a role, but throughout the ranges, like in Somaliland, we've got horrible droughts going on up there as well. So throughout the Cheetahs range, it is affecting everyone. And climate change is real, and it affects snow melt, and it affects dry land systems.
Great. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Next, I want to introduce our second speaker, but because we're running a little bit short on time, I'm gonna be very, very quick. It's a real pleasure and honor to introduce Rocio Palacios from Argentina. Rocio has been working with Andean cats, and she'll tell you all about this really, really cute cat. That's the most endangered cat in the Americas. She's been working with it for about 18 years. She's only caught a glimpse of this cat, maybe once or a couple of times, and yet that has not stopped her passion and her grit to go and conserve this incredible animals. She is a fantastic conservationist. She is about to complete her PhD, so please give a big hand and a round of applause for Rocio Palacios.
So thank you, GJ. Thank you, everybody, for being here. So if somebody told me 20 years ago that I will be speaking after Laurie Marker, I would tell you, like, come on, get out. It's like, this place, WCN, provides us this incredible place for us to share our work. And Laurie says she got the most fantastic cat it was. Well, we have the cutest cat, and it's very badass, too. So I'm here, as GJ said, I'm Rocio. I'm from Argentina. And I'm here representing a group of people, a fantastic group of people that have been working with this species in the Andes, one of Earth's last wild places. So we are trying to save the spirit of the Andes. But today, particularly, I want to get kind of like on the same line of what GJ was saying. I want to discuss a little bit more with you guys how our paths in life can get to be intertwined for conservation. So I always start my presentation, my friends here already know this, but for all of you that are new here, thank you for being this your first Expo, but you need to know this. I'm a crazy cat lady. And I'm a proud crazy cat lady because I got, to work with cats. So I've been like that all my life. I've been rescuing kittens since I was a kid, and I still do it. So if you don't have a cat, visit your shelter. And I'm also passionate about the outdoors. I've been going to the mountains since I was a young girl. And I still remember the first time that I went to the Andes. The Andes are so magnificent that it's really not something that you can put into words. But I remember having this incredible sensation of melting with the landscape and being, no more or less than the grass around me or the stars above. It was so fantastic that I felt like a call. If I could find a way in life to be able to preserve this landscape while also working with cats, that would be awesome. And so the Andean cat provided this to me. The Andean cat is the perfect ambassador species for preserving this landscape. So we have been working with this cat, the Andean Cat Alliance. I was very lucky. I found this bunch of people that were already working with this species. You have to realize, guys, I know, it's so cute. 20 years ago, there was nothing known about here, he's purring right there. Do you see that? So 20 years ago, there was nothing known about this species. There were only 2 pictures and a bunch of skins at museums. This is only 20 years ago. So when we got together at the Andean Cat Alliance and started working with this cat, we wanted to unravel the mysteries of the species. So the first 10 years, we spent lots of hours in the field trying to find this ghost. We put in tons of camera traps, looking for signs. Poop is fantastic. So, and we kind of learn a lot of things about the species. We learn where they are, what do they eat, what other species are living with them, and how they interact. And we also learn, after a lot of time, a lot of field effort, this is working in high elevation, extreme weather conditions, we got the first population estimate. And it was a huge red flag, because we have less than 1,500 mature individuals in the whole range. We are talking about the whole distribution of the species. So that's a very low number. We also were able to identify the threats for the conservation of the species. And we went over the threats several times, and we finally got to prioritize them in a proper way. So the main threat for the conservation of the species is habitat loss and degradation, mainly provoked by extractive industries that are not doing things right because our governments are not enforcing the laws as they should. And the second threat, which is really important too, is hunting. Hunting has a lot of background, different origins, but the one that is affecting the species more directly is retaliatory killing. This means that, mountain lions and culpeo foxes are big kind of doggies, and they kill livestock. So local people end up killing all carnivores just in case, The Andean cats are not really kill livestock that we know of, but they get to be, they get to pay the price. So this was like a tipping point for us, because we realized the cat was disappearing as fast as we were gathering information of the species. So this was 10 years ago. We have been together for 20 years, and 10 years ago we decided to completely flip our strategy. Now we are all researchers. So we actually needed to get out of our comfort zone and start really working in conservation, deeply committed in conservation programs. So we have been developing community conservation programs, and we have been learning from people like Laurie and their programs, So for this we needed allies, and allies were there. Working with the communities has been fantastic, because most of these communities, not all of them, but most of them, has a very deep relation, cultural relation with the species. And the Andean cat used to be a sacred species for them. So what we needed to do mainly was to, kind of bring that connection back to life. So right now we have 5 active programs, and I would love to get into the details of the programs, but we do have a time constraint. If you want to know more, please visit us. My buddy Gabriel and I, we're going to be on the table all day. I love questions, so I know GJ only get us to have 2 questions, well, yeah, So that's Gabriel. He's from Peru. And we don't have time for a lot of questions, but I love questions, really. My friends here can tell that I love questions. So I'm not going to get into the details of all of our programs, but I want to tell you what I think is the perfect example of our approach. These guys from this community, these are from Pucasaya. It's in southern Peru. And, Gabriel, he's from the new generation of AGA members. He has been with us only for 2 years, but he has been working with Andean cats longer than that. When he got his undergrad, he started an NGO that is called Pro Carnívoros in Peru, and based on his effort and his team effort, they actually got to put the Andean cat again into the conservation arena in Peru. It was a forgotten species in their country. So they have achieved a lot, and he has been working with us for 2 years, and so right now he's the coordinator of one of our programs and the focal point in Peru. He's our contact person in Peru. And in March of this year, it was February, March, at the beginning of this year, he told me, I found this community in southern Peru. They are having problems with mountain lions, and they're asking us for help, and they have Andean cats in their land. So, okay, great. Go talk to them. Go see, show them our tools, show them our approach, and see if they can work with it. What we did, what we have been doing these past 10 years, is that we have been testing in the field different approaches for, kind of like reducing those threats from different perspectives. So we are testing different approaches. For instance, if somebody's having problems with puma, we tried guard dogs, we tried deterrent lights, we tried corral improvements, and other tools. We selected the ones that are most successful, and we build like protocols, compare pros and cons of them. And so when we sit down with a community and they tell us we are having problems with puma, we can tell them, you know what, this is what we can help you with. This is what we know that have worked in other places. See which one of these tools actually works for you. So they are being absolutely included in the decision-making process from the very beginning. And this has given us such a huge success that we are now struggling to, keep up dealing with the success because there's not enough of us and not enough funds to do everything. So this particular community, they approached us for having problems with mountain lions. So the first thing we did, we offered them, some of the tools we were implementing were for diminishing this conflict. They're not using dogs yet, but they're already using lights, and they're improving their corrals, and they're improving the management of their livestock. But they are also an artisan community. So when they found out we had the Catcraft program, that is a program that works with communities trying to develop, kind of products that will help them improve their lifestyles while protecting the cat, they got absolutely into it. They actually designed a whole collection inspired in the Andean cat. You can get to see the products on our table. They are fantastic. And they are making these products with alpaca wool. And they are so excited with everything that is going on that they have already asked us to put some camera traps in their land because they want to kind of separate pieces of their land that they can see there, they can tell they are protecting the Andean cats. They want to identify how many cats they have and name them. And they also want to they also want us to help them teach their kids at schools about how this species is relevant at a landscape scale, not how cute the cat is, but how good it is as an ecological indicator of a healthy environment. And this is only in 10 months, guys. It's impressive what can happen when the community gets involved from the very beginning. But you know, it's like what happened here is that a lot of things are behind this. It's not just, you know, we needed allies, and it's not just the communities and us. For this to happen, we needed to have, you know, the people from Pro-Carnívoros that are proactive in their country. We needed to have the supporters from here that are providing the funds for us to do the fieldwork. We needed to have WCN to be the channel on that thing. We needed to have people like Kiyoshi Mino, who's sitting right there. I see you. He did this fantastic life-size sculpture of an Andean cat in felt that it's on a table. You can take pictures with it. We're not going to charge you anything, like for today, for half of the day. And then we're going to use this cat for our educational programs because it's fantastic. You can actually want to hug him and take it to bed with you. And we needed to have, you know, people that have come before us, like Laurie, that did a lot of the hard work with the guard dogs, for instance. So we are learning from them. And there's so many things behind what we are doing that I think that is the important thing that we have to recognize today, that we all have a role to play in trying to solve this environmental crisis that we are going through. And people keep on asking me after 18 years of only seeing like a glimpse of the cat running around that I wouldn't even know that it was an Andean cat if somebody else didn't see it first. So where do I get the energy to start working with a species that you can have in front of your face and you don't get to see? You know, you all saw him, huh? Saw him down here? And, well, looking for, you know, when your house cats hide, when they do hide, that you cannot find them in your house, imagine trying to find one of these cats in the Andes. So I always answer the same thing, you know, it's like, some years ago, I believe that in some part in the story of humankind, we took the wrong turn. We got out of the wrong exit on the highway. Come on, that happened to all of us at least once. And you want to kill yourself because it's so hard to get back on the highway sometimes. And I imagine, you know, all the rest of the animals on the planet saying, where is the bald, two-legged monkey going? You know, it's like, but we are trying to find our way back. I am absolutely convinced that caring and sensitivity are driving good decisions and that we can actually make a difference. And, you know, it feels, thank you guys. It feels, you know, when you get out of the highway in the wrong exit, you want to try to go back and you jump into rush hour downtown, so you get stuck in traffic. It feels you're going to be like forever stuck there. But you Californians know that you always arrive to your safe place. So we can do it, guys. And this is the kind of achievements that are hard to measure. 20 years ago, there were only 2 pictures taken and a couple of, you know, skins at museums. And right now, this year, we have the Andean cat in a coin in Peru and in a bill, in the highest currency bill in Bolivia. And it's Chile is also doing really well, and in Argentina we are trying to catch up with these guys. But it's getting better and better and better. So when I feel down, and I feel that, you know, there are days that are bad, when we get a new record of an Andean cat killed or something, I remember this. I remember when everything is feeling down and sad and bad, I remember that there are still cats that are living in there doing cat things in the most beautiful place in the planet. And with this, I want to leave you with a question. You have to listen to this. Don't worry, we translate it for you guys. So the question is, what is your path? What are you can do to conservation? Thank you, guys.
Rocio wins a prize for being done 5 seconds early. So we have time for a couple of questions. Well, can you wait for a mic? We'll put him down.
Yeah, it is working.
And I see a couple of people leaving, and you're welcome to, but I encourage everybody to stay through. We're going to be wrapping up pretty shortly, but please stay around.
Just yell. I'll repeat it. Don't worry about it. So basically the question is if we are teaching about the other predators and the relevance of the ecosystem. We are using the cat as an ambassador species to reach these communities. So our conflict mitigation program is mainly focused in reducing the conflict with pumas and foxes, and actually to avoid killing all species. We are really proud because in every community that we are implementing this program, we don't have any carnivores killed, no more. So this is it's been very, very powerful and is very successful if the community gets involved in the process from the very beginning. But yes, we do have an educational program, and it's separated in chapters too, like in modules. And when we reach a community, we make like an initial assessment of how they are, where they are located, because people know about things now. 30 years ago, if you say to somebody, recycle or ecotourism, they would never know what it was, but now everybody knows. No matter how isolated the community is, they do know. So we approach them, we see where they are located, and we try to work from there to see what they need to learn in relation to, their previous knowledge. So we implemented different modules. We have one module of Andean cat, another of biodiversity, another of, the landscape and conservation strategies. So we try to work like that. It's very adaptive. Questions? If it's an apex predator, no, it's not an apex predator. It's a key carnivore species because we're talking about a very, very dry area. So every species is going to be really, really relevant here because it's, it's not so biodiverse. So the apex predator is going to be the mountain lion here. And the Culpea fox and the Andean cats are kind of like more or less like the same size. Maybe, where is Gabriel? Maybe the Culpea fox is a little bit bigger, but they will try to avoid each other mainly. What do they feed on? The Andean cat? What do the Andean cat feed on? There is this also very cute looking rodent that it's called the mountain vizcacha, that it's like basically like a fat squirrel with big ears. It's very beautiful, but it's also very tasty for the Andean cat. That is the main prey. No, the mountain vizcacha is not in danger. We believe that the chinchilla, the regular, wild version of the actual pet chinchilla, that species was probably very important in the diet of the Andean cat. We don't know for sure because we don't have previous information, but maybe, the use of the fur of the chinchilla in the past could actually help to have the species in this situation. So, more questions, guys? One more question.
Go up front here.
I have one here. We can take.
Or take it, Kylie. Do you have somebody out there with a question?
Yeah, Kylie's over there.
What does your PhD research focus on?
Oh, my PhD is scientifically boring. No, actually, it's going to be, I thought, when I started it, my main goal was trying to identify local variables that will let me create a predictive map of Andean cat distribution in North Patagonia. That is where I'm actually doing my fieldwork. It's been a real challenge to try to do this, and the final product does not really let me that happy, but all the PhD people that I talk about tell me that always happens. Don't worry about it. So I don't know.
Thank you, Rocio.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So Rocio will be at her table. I just want to share a few final thoughts before you all leave your seat. Please bear with me. I was just approached right before the session by a young woman who wanted to know how to get involved in this field. And in a nutshell, eventually what I told her is, look, just network and connect with people. When I was in my early 20s, I wanted to be a primatologist. So I wrote to, 75, 100 primatologists all over the world. Very few of them responded. And one person did respond, and it was Jane Goodall. And her spirit of generosity is absolutely incredible. You could imagine this was 22 years ago. She was already extremely famous. She inspired me since I was a little boy. She still took the time to write me a handwritten note, and I remember this to this day. And she wrote a couple of other notes. And so we have a very special guest right now who wants to share a few thoughts with us. Please welcome Dr. Jane Goodall.
Well, good morning, everyone, and how wonderful to see you all here. So I was just upstairs, and it seemed a bit mean that there were all of you downstairs that I didn't have a chance to say hello to, and to thank you for coming, because WCN Expo is it's something I have been coming to right from the beginning, and I think that we're going through pretty dark times right now as far as conservation, climate, and everything is concerned. And we all need hope, because if we lose hope, if we succumb to the dark forces, if we only read all the news that's bad, doom and gloom, then what's the point of bothering? Why would anybody try and conserve anything if it's too late? So I think when Charlie Knowles began WCN, it was such a brilliant idea to bring donors, wealthy donors, together with struggling field researchers, so that they could get on with their work, their passionate work of trying to save animals and environments from disappearing forever. So it's always a great joy for me to come to the WCN, to be with Charlie again, to be with all these incredible scientists who are really, really not only working to save wildlife, they are saving wildlife, they are making a difference. It is not too late if we all get together. And WCN brings together people who all care. And when you bring together a whole group of people who care, then it's kind of magic, and things can happen. So, I began working to try and save chimpanzee habitats and chimpanzees back in the early 80s. And I very soon realized that unless you worked with the local people, some of whom are really suffering poverty and lack of good health and education, and started a program called Take Care Otukari in the villages around Gombe in a very holistic way. And it's worked amazingly. So we have the villages now in all 104 villages throughout the remaining chimpanzee habitat in Tanzania. And all of these villages provide volunteers to come and learn how to use cell phones. And they go into their village forest reserves and they report on illegally cut trees and animal traps and sighting a chimpanzee or a pangolin or a leopard or something like that. And that all goes up to a platform in the clouds, Global Forest Watch. And so it's transparent, so people can see what's happening. And it's changed the attitude. So all these villagers have now become our partners in conservation. And not only do they understand that protecting the environment is not only for wildlife, but also their own future. And we've also given them the tools that they can actually check on and monitor how things are going in their village. So it's been so successful, it's in 6 other African countries around chimpanzee habitat, so that there are forest and chimpanzees out there who wouldn't be there now, but for our Takari program. So that's so much part of what WCN does. So I'm really happy that I've had a chance to at least say hello to you. And we have this program, Roots and Shoots for Young People, which began in 1991 in Tanzania. And its basic message is every single one of us makes a difference every single day, and we get to choose what sort of impact we make on the planet. And every group of Roots and Shoots, kindergarten, university, everything in between, chooses 3 projects to make this a better world for people, for animals, for the environment. And it's just transforming young people in 60 countries, and we partner with other youth organizations that have the same kind of philosophy. So it's the young people who give me the greatest hope, as well as the amazing intellect that we have, the resilience of nature. Animals can be brought back from the brink of extinction, habitats can be restored. And then there's this indomitable human spirit, the people who tackle what seems impossible and won't give up and succeed. So at the end of every Roots and Shoots program, when we bring people together in Tanzania from around the city, whenever we can, from different parts of the country, to share ideas and to inspire each other, at the end I found that they were saying, together we can save the world. And I said, yes, we can, but will we? So now at the end they say, together we can, together we will save the world. So, and organizations like WCN, which honestly is the only one I know that is really so inspiring and so exciting and so with it and so, inspiring this feeling. So can we all join in that together? Everybody in here, together we can. Together we will. Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you so much, Jane. Thank you, everybody. The next session will start at 11:30. Thank you for being here.